Just want to make sure this had everything. So this is, I'm holding before you a massive 3-page agenda. I believe this is version 3. We have a lot of great things to talk about, and we have a lot of guests here today. So I'm going to go a little quickly. Please put it in the chat, raise your hand if you have any questions. Adrian is always watching both things, and we'll make sure she cues me. So I'm just going to quickly do the roll call. We have, you just answer if you're here. Brian.
Here.
Kate.
Here.
Leanne.
Here.
New member Pauline.
Here. Here.
New member Harriet.
Here.
New member Deborah.
Deborah, we saw you unmute, but I'm not sure we heard you.
Here.
Oh, there we go.
Yay, thank you for being here tonight. Did I miss anyone? Oh gosh, no, we have Leanne also. There's so many faces, I can't see all of them.
Yes, I'm here. Is my audio working?
Yes.
Now it's working. Okay. I just want to really quickly read the agenda for all persons who may not be able to see it or do not have it in Braille. I'm going to skip to number 3 since we've done the first 2, and I'd like to congratulate Harriet, Pauline, and Deborah all for being here. It's been quite a journey, and we are so excited that you are here. We're also going to hear a presentation from Mobility. It's called the No Turn on Red, as well as the, has another name. It's a traffic report, an update that they'd like some feedback from us. Myself and Adrian have some information to share. We're going to look at just a few pieces of the bylaws. And we have only 4 meeting minutes to look at because I mistakenly wrote down February's of last month, which we do not have yet, and that's fine. We have some new business to discuss, which includes some variances, and I think that's it. That should be plenty. So does anyone have any questions about the agenda before we jump right in? Okay, so I'm going to turn it over to our mobility team. Adrian, do you mind displaying their slides?
We are way ahead of you, Holly. We already had this discussion earlier this afternoon.
And I'm going to give them between 10 and 15 minutes and apologize ahead of time, just to allow us for an extra 5 minutes for questions. And then absolutely we can speak again on this topic. And then shortly after that, I'm going to move next to one of the variance requests that we have. We have the person here who's here while we talk about their request, if there's any questions for us. So I'm going to mute. Here we go.
I cannot see everybody because I'm sharing my screen. If you cannot see the first slide that I'm displaying, which is some fun, artful graphics of 2 city buses, 2 cars, and a street with housing, and a couple people on bikes and a pedestrian. And then it says, with a blue background and white, traffic and parking 2023 update, Somerville Commission for Persons with Disabilities, Jackie Stagneri and Jessica Bilo, March 28, 2023, and the city emblem. So if you cannot see what I just described, please let me know or put something in the chat. And then if Jessica and or Jackie can just say next slide when you're ready to move forward, that is helpful.
Perfect. So I think I can kick us off if everybody can hear me. So I'm Jackie Stagnari. I work in the parking department for the city. And then I'm here with my colleague Jessica, who works in the engineering department. So we have the agenda on the screen with a couple of topics we're going to go over today that both the parking department and the engineering department work on. So I'll be talking about one of our draft street design policies, which is the no turn on red policy. It's a draft policy that city staff have been working to develop. So we're here to present on that today. And then Jessica will be talking about two different topics. One, clearing parking from intersection corners, and then she'll be talking about some pedestrian traffic signal improvements. And on the right side of this slide, we just included the City of Somerville's high crash network map. So it shows between 2017 and 2021 high crash intersections within city boundaries. And you can go next slide, Adrian.
Like all of them.
So first up is the right turn on red policy. So the city has been looking at right turn on red policies as part of our push to make safer streets for all users, and acknowledging that turns on red is an important component of that. And there are other cities around the country that are also doing the same. And for a little background, in 1975, turns on red were actually implemented. The federal government required states to allow turns on red. It was part of a fuel saving measure during the fuel crisis in the 70s. And in 1980, Massachusetts was the last state in the country to allow turns on red. And so in present day, as part of state law, it permits turns on red after a complete stop, unless no turn on red signs are physically posted at the intersection. And on the left side of the screen, we included 3 different examples of types of no turn on red signs that you might see. So there are 2 signs that are 24-inch by 30-inch. They both read no turn on red. One has a red circle underneath, and one just has the text no turn on red. And the other one is similarly just a little smaller sign, a 24-inch by 24-inch sign that also reads no turn on red. So those are just 3 examples of different types of signs that you might see. And you can go next. So other cities are also looking at this policy, as I mentioned, and some have already had this no turn on red policies implemented. So a big one is New York City. They've had a long time policy of no turn on red within all 5 boroughs, unless a sign is posted saying that you can take a turn on red. And they do have approximately 330 locations across their 5 boroughs, but it really varies heavily in Staten Island, but not a lot in Manhattan, for instance. And then Washington, D.C. and our neighbors in Cambridge, Massachusetts, have more recently in the last couple of years passed legislation stating that they're going to ban turns on red across the cities, but they do leave the caveat that their departments of transportation can still allow it at certain intersections if it's deemed safe. And then here in Somerville, in terms of our current policy, we have the Somerville traffic regulations, which outlines the restrictions for turns on red. And we have a list of all locations in the city that should have that restriction where you can't take a right turn on red. And then we also follow the Manual on Uniform Traffic Control Devices, shortened to MUTCD. It's a federal standard put out by the Federal Highway Administration that we follow for all of our traffic signals and traffic control devices. So no turn on red falls under that. So they have guidelines that we also follow when thinking about this restriction. And then on the left, we just included the cover page of the traffic regulations, which just reads City of Somerville, Massachusetts Traffic Commission traffic regulations with a little Somerville logo. Next. So in terms of where we are now with actual signs on the street, the city has 65 city-owned signalized intersections. there are a number of intersections that are owned by the state, but these city-owned signalized intersections are under our jurisdiction. So we looked at these 65, and 52 of these have exclusive crossings, meaning that pedestrians cross during their own phase when all motor vehicle traffic on all approaches is stopped. And then 13 have concurrent crossings, where pedestrians cross at the same time as motor vehicle traffic in the same direction. And I just want to highlight that 4 intersections in the city are exclusive crossings, but they are concurrent on some legs. But for this policy, we categorize them under exclusive. And so I just want to highlight that the majority of our intersections are exclusive phasings, which came into play with how we evaluate for no turn on red signage. Because I should have mentioned this in the last slide, but part of the federal guidelines under the MUTCD is that all exclusive crossings, that is a criteria for having no turn on red at all approaches of an intersection if that intersection is exclusive. And on the right, we just included a map. It's a Somerville traffic signal inventory. And so it's a map of the city boundaries, and it highlights where all of the traffic signals are in the city. And next. So then we looked by approach. We did an analysis by approach, since talking about overall intersections. Some turns might have a no turn on red sign, but other turns at the same intersection might not. So we looked at it by every single approach at every single intersection and found that 72% of all approaches have a no turn on red restriction right now in Somerville. However, some of these locations are missing signs. So 54% of all approaches have a no turn on red sign posted. So 72% is what you might call like the on the paper number, like that's like what we have on the books. But 54% is what you'll actually see on the street, since the restriction has to have a sign physically posted to enforce. So there is a discrepancy in that. And then 23% of all additional approaches would warrant a no turn on red restriction. Again, because we have so many exclusive crossings in the city, that would automatically fall under the federal guidelines to put a no turn on red sign there. And that would leave us with 5% of all approaches in the city that could allow a turn on red, but further evaluation is needed to confirm, because there's additional criteria that the federal guidelines have that we would have to individually evaluate each approach with. And then on the right side of the screen, we included a graphic showing different types of intersections with the different numbers of approaches. So your classic like T intersection, like an uppercase T, or a skewed T where it's a little offset. First, maybe like your lowercase T intersection, which is like your standard like 4-lane road intersection, and then a few different variations of like 5- and 6-leg intersections. And next. So that brings us to our draft policy proposal, which reads, no turn on red signs will be applied at all intersection approaches in Somerville at city-owned traffic signals, except when an engineering review recommends retaining turns on red. Site-specific conditions that may result in retaining turns on red may include bus lane operations or anticipated queuing through upstream signals with higher levels of non-motorized use or impacts on transit reliability. And at the bottom of this slide, we included a graphic that reads reliability matters. It's an image showing a ratio of time that a bus is moving, boarding, and stopped, showing that a bus may spend 40 minutes and 6 seconds moving, 18 minutes and 54 seconds boarding, and then 18 minutes and 7 seconds sitting at red signals. And that does conclude the portion of this presentation that focuses on right turn on red. So it might make sense to pause here for any questions before we move into the 2 topics that Jessica is going to discuss.
This is Pauline. What about left turns on red?
Yes, so that is a good question, and actually something I found when looking through this policy. So there is also turns permitted if it's a left turn on a one-way street and you're making a left onto another one-way street, which explained to me why I always thought it was weird that there is a sign at It's when Elm Street and you can make the left onto Cutter in Davis Square, and there's a sign that
Oh,
says
yeah.
left turn, like, but after full stop. And I was like, I've never taken a left turn at a red light before. This feels weird. But through this policy, yes. And so we did look at those too. There's a very small number of places in the city where you can do that. I think it's only 4 or 5 locations. And so we will be including that in our review to also compare that against all the criteria.
Put my hand up.
You should just.
Hi, this is Harriet, and I'm just curious, does a sign coloration, which I guess is always red, is that work for people who are colorblind? Anybody know?
That is a good question. I am not sure the answer, Jessica. I'm not sure if you know.
Do you mean the no turn on red sign?
Yeah.
Yeah, that does work because it has the text and the only symbol on one of them is against a white background. So you would at least be able to distinguish the difference in the circular symbol representing a red signal.
But is the print, the written part of it also in red? Because I'm not sure myself.
No, the written part is in black. The text is in black. It says no turn on red. The only colored part of the sign is the red circular symbol indicating the red signal at a traffic signal.
And I'm presuming it's very simple block letters, which are very easily read by anyone.
That's true. Mhm.
I'm gonna ask if people would mind just raising their hands first so I can call on them so everyone gets through in turns, if that's okay. And if
Yep.
you have an issue, please just put it in the chat if that's not working for you. Leon, your hand is raised.
Yes, this is Leon. I have 2 questions. So the first question, is the plan just to keep, the law says right turns on red are allowed unless posted, but we're adding posting to as many as possible? Or is the idea to eventually change it so that the rule is they're not allowed unless posted and add signs to the ones where you can?
So I think right now, because it's state law, but we're permitted to restrict it with a sign, our approach is going to be to post the signs, which is in line with how our neighbors in Cambridge and a lot of other cities are approaching it.
Okay.
New York City is a little bit of an anomaly, in which theirs is just a blanket no turn on red, except their signs say you can take a right turn on red. But yes, we're going to go with the
Okay, I
approach
had-
where we post signs.
Misunderstood how you said Cambridge is doing it. So, okay. And then my second question, so I know I see at some intersections, I can't actually remember off the top of my head if I've seen any in Somerville or just in surrounding cities, but ones that are no turn on red except bicycles. And so I'm curious if any of the ones in Somerville are going to be that, and also just on a larger scale, if there has been any thought into like a blanket regulations for bicycles specifically, because I know from my own experience, if it's not specifically called out, like this is the bicycle rule as opposed to the car rule, there is a lot of variation in actual behavior. And so if any thought has been put into making it clear what the expected behavior is so that that can be more consistent.
Yes, we're definitely discussing it. We haven't come to a decision on the accept bikes portion, but that has been raised as part of presentations similar to this one that we've been doing with other committees. And so we are reviewing that now to see what that might look like in terms of how it fits in with this draft policy.
Do we have any more questions or feedback? I appreciate your time very much, as does the commission, for sharing this with us and allowing us to give you some feedback. Remind me, is there contact information here if anyone has questions?
Holly, I'm sorry. There's actually still a few more slides to this presentation.
Oh, I apologize.
Yeah, they had just stopped after this first part to make sure there weren't any questions.
Continue on.
All right, while Adrian takes us to the beginning slide. Oh, we're here already. I am Jessica Bello. I'm the traffic engineer for the city of Somerville, and I will be presenting a couple additional items that we, like Jackie had mentioned, had presented at committees earlier this month. So I'm going to start with daylighting, which is also known as clear corners. And clearing corners, also referred to as daylighting, is a safety measure achieved by removing parking spaces around an intersection to increase the visibility for all people approaching the intersection, minimizing previously unseen conflicts. So there's a before image on the left, which shows parking all the way up to the crosswalk, and an after image on the right that shows the visibility sightline of a person in a car approaching the intersection when the parking is restricted ahead of the crosswalk. And it shows that they can see people who are both in the crosswalk, but also on the corners of the crosswalk. Next slide. So we've started to implement clearing parking from intersection corners around the city. And we have started with a focus on our high crash locations first, which has been along the Broadway corridor. So we started last year in West Somerville, and we are moving, or I said that, in West Somerville on Broadway, so West Broadway. We are moving along to finish the rest of Broadway this year. And we are planning to incorporate this into all of our new projects, which includes reconstruction projects and repaving projects. And for future prioritization, once we make it through all the high crash locations, we will look into incorporating this for specific land uses, which could include schools, crossing guard locations, senior centers, and high pedestrian locations. And then we will also look at incorporating it along neighborways, which are known as residential streets that will be identified as part of the bicycle network plan. And the two images on the right are taken at the intersection on Belknap Street at Broadway. And the image on the top is looking towards the left of that intersection and is taken from about where somebody in a car or on a bike would be standing in the middle of the road. And it shows the pavement markings that we have added in advance of the crosswalk to delineate the no parking zone to make it more clear for people driving where they can and cannot park in advance of intersections. And the picture on the bottom shows the view looking towards the right corner at that intersection. Next slide. And then the other topic that I was going to present was upgrades that we were planning to do focused on pedestrians at traffic signals. So we have started to look at adding accessible pedestrian signals to all of our traffic signal locations, in addition to countdown timers. So I have two images shown on the, or I have two sets of images shown on the right. There are older push buttons that are shown in the top images that are not known as accessible pedestrian signals because you don't get as much information from those signals. So I will talk specifically about the accessible pedestrian signal that's shown on the bottom left, because you can see that it has an arrow that should be tactile. So you can actually feel the arrow when you're feeling the push button. And there is also, when you push that button, there will be a vibrotactile signal, and it will start undulating fast when you have the walk signal on, so that you can recognize when to cross if you are blind or visually impaired. And then I did also include an image of accessible signage, because a lot of the times what's posted above the push buttons doesn't have any raised text for somebody who is blind or visually impaired to actually recognize. So there are signs out there that we have not yet installed, but we are hoping to install in the future that have raised text that say push button for accessible signal. And then there is also Braille that says push button to cross. And there are raised indications on the sign that indicate where you are in the intersection and how many lanes you cross as you go through the crosswalk. And then in addition to upgrading our physical equipment, we have been working to retime signals so that there is adequate walk time for pedestrians who might take longer to cross. So the image in the bottom left is from the NCHRP's signal timing manual, and it's exhibit 6-19, which talks about the pedestrian interval requirements based on walking speed. And it shows between the curbs, so for the full length of the crosswalk, a pedestrian must be able to walk at 3.5 feet per second between the curb and the opposite curb during the pedestrian clearance phase. And then it has an explanation that says pedestrian must be able to walk at 3 feet per second between push button and opposite curb during the walk plus the pedestrian clearance. So sometimes the push buttons are much farther from the curb cuts. And so if somebody is waiting at a push button, it accounts for that extra time that it takes to make it all the way across to the other side of the street.
A quick clarification. This is Leon. When you say the walk phase and the pedestrian clearance phase, is one of those the time where it's like finish crossing but don't start? Like, just what's the terminology there?
Yes. So the walk is when, for somebody who's blind or visually impaired, you'll get the walk. Either it'll be an auditory walk or walk sign is on cue, or the button will make that vibrating, that fast vibration. And that is for the full duration that somebody who is able to see will see a walking person on a countdown timer or on the pedestrian signal. And the pedestrian clearance time is the full length of the flashing don't walk, which is a red hand that flashes.
Okay, thank you.
And then
This is
there
Pauline.
is
Oh.
there is one more thing, and then I'll take questions. The last part of the image that I have shown also states that if there is no push button, then you assume 6 feet from the edge of curb or pavement for making sure somebody who is a little bit farther away from the crossing has enough time to make that full the full crossing from one side to the other. Okay, I'm now ready for questions.
Jessica, we have, just give me 1 second, please. Jessica, we've run out of time. And this last slide is extremely important, I'm sure, to many of us, because it's sort of the whole overview of what it's like for a person with disabilities to cross a street, or what the traffic is like. And I don't want to cut you off, but I also, we really don't have any more time on the agenda. Is there an can you just specifically let us know what feedback you'd like from us now? And if there would be an opportunity to speak with you again about these slides, or if we can send you questions.
I'd be happy to receive questions. I don't think I needed any specific feedback. It was more information that I thought this group might be interested in hearing.
I am very excited that you brought this to our attention and that you shared this. And I think that your last slide was extremely impactful because it showed visually, and you were able to describe what those images were that are very important to us. I have a hearing loss, so the sounds of those signals are very helpful for me as well. But I have noticed that there seems to be variations in how close or the location of those signals are to the actual curb cut or the sidewalk placement. And at times they face the wrong direction. I'm just giving you that feedback. So in other words, if you can walk straight, or you could possibly turn left from the same signal, those pads would face both directions and have a separate button with an arrow showing you which way that they would face. So my guess is you're aware of some of these issues and you're working through them. And hopefully in tandem, making sure that, the new ones are placed appropriately. I appreciate you shaking your head saying yes. I frequently have problems crossing the streets in some very busy areas. And when I'm looking for them, it becomes difficult. Anyone who hasn't asked a question would like to speak? Otherwise, I see a hand from Leanne.
Yeah, this is Lynn. A couple quick things. You mentioned the auditory countdowns. Is that the ones that specifically speak the numbers or the ones that beep?
Primarily what we have in the city right now are the ones that beep.
Okay, are you trying to switch that out when you do new ones? Or are you installing new beep ones?
That's a good question. There are different brands of push buttons that have different capabilities, and I'm still learning how to program them myself, because when they come with a set program, they don't always allow as much flexibility with the auditory cues that can be given. So most of the push buttons, I am still learning to program, so I can take that feedback.
Yeah, and unless someone visually impaired wants to contradict me because I don't know as much on that, I will say from a sensory issues perspective, such as like with autism, the counting is a lot easier to deal with than the beeping. So I would encourage you to lean towards that with any new replacements if possible. And then a quick question about the daylighting intersections. I know there is the 20-foot requirement. Is this in addition to that, or is this actually striping out places where people are parking within that 20 feet?
It is striping the locations within the 20 feet from
Okay.
intersections, and we're measuring that from intersections as from the edge of the crosswalk. So it is just making that more visible around the city. And once we implement these pavement markings, we have started to enforce it as well, because without the delineated zone of no parking, it's much harder for drivers to visually understand what that distance is exactly. So we have started marking that to make it more clear. And once we have it marked is when we've started to enforce it. And I do want to also just speak to your feedback, Holly, real quick. We are looking at locations, and when we upgrade the push button and the countdown timer equipment, we haven't had the ability to move the buttons. But as we do new projects, we have been evaluating whether the existing locations actually meet the criteria of where the push buttons should be located, so that as we design new curb ramps, we can ensure that the push buttons are adjacent to the level landings for those new curb ramps.
Thank you. I appreciate everything. I'm going to have to move on.
One last quick thing that I hadn't gotten to. Indeed, I have not fully thought out the implementation of it because I had it about 2 months ago. But as you're striping out the areas for the daylighting the intersections, it might be good to look into whether it's possible to place accessible parking spots next to those, such that that could be probably mostly, if it's possible, to have them like on the, as you're turning onto a street on that side, so you could pull in and have a ramp coming out the back using that space that is being marked out anyway. That might be possible to sort of use that space also as the access aisle. So I don't know how many places that would work, but it would be a good thing to think about as you're looking at these spaces.
I know for new accessible parking permits, we have been incorporating that where we can.
Great. Thank you all.
And if anybody has questions, please send them to Adrienne and she can send them along to me.
Thank you very much. I'm sure we have lots of comments and questions, so please expect them to be coming along. Adrian, are you able to display the variance for 205 Beacon Street?
If you give me a moment, I can certainly bring that up.
So 205 Beacon Street is I'm just gonna paraphrase as we switch the screens, is a apartment building with 10 units. And they recently applied for a variance with regards to the accessible ramp that provides access to the building along the front side of the street where it faces Beacon. And I had some questions, and I spoke with Tom the last 2 days just to understand pieces of the variance. And the two specific items on the variance are about the width or the distance between the railings, and also the fact asking if the railings could be non-circular versus circular. So I've sent the application and the images, and I let Tom know that we were going to have a meeting today. If he would like to listen in, and if there were any questions, he could answer them for us. It's very straightforward what the request is. So I'm making the assumption, here we have it, that everyone has had a chance to look through these. There are 2 additional pictures or images that were sent that show cleaner views of the front of the building.
So what would you like me to pull up first, Holly? The actual what the request is, which is this, or do you want the other documentation that was sent?
Thank you for asking. I'm going to ask our commissioners if they have any questions or would like to see certain pieces of the application or any of the images that were sent. And that can direct where we go next.
Excuse me, Holly. I didn't understand your description. The railings for what?
So
Oh,
the accessible ramp that allows access from the front of the building from the street into the front of the building has a ramp. And the requirement is 48 inches between the railing. So the right and left sides of the ramp has 2 levels of railing. They're supposed to be 48 inches wide, and the variance is for it to be 40 inches instead of 48. The additional request is, instead of having round circular handrails, that they use non-circular handrails.
Can I assume that's for better gripping on the handrail? And also, what is the standard size for power chairs if there is width? I thought it was 36 inches, but I don't know.
36 is ADA, but Mass Architectural Access Board that reviews these variances requires 48.
Hmm.
But the point of a variance is to ask for relief for specific reasons. In this case, 8 inches is being asked for the purpose of being able to plant additional, trees, shrub, bushes, flowers along the Beacon Street side of the building. Leanne, do you have your hand raised, or is that from earlier?
Yes, I just wanted to answer the question about the purpose of the handrails. It was
you.
not for additional accessibility. It was specifically for aesthetic reasons.
The variance request, yes, it was visually requested. The one thing I did ask about when it came to the handrails for the railings was if there were examples of what other people were doing that were compliant, and either that had a different, I guess, oh, I'm losing my words, that were more aesthetic than some other, than the standard type of a railing. And I have seen different railings, and I believe in the importance of having a safe and multiple level handrail. The reason that, like many of the other variances that we get, is this may come up in about 2 weeks in a hearing. And if we have any feedback, we can certainly give that to the requester now. And we will also be drafting a response to the variance request. Ms. Bonnie, you have a question or comment?
Yes, thank you, Chair Simeoni. I have a lot of comments and questions, but I would love to see the other pictures because I was confused about some of the drawings. And
Absolutely.
I'm sure actual commissioners have questions too. So I'm happy to hold my comments until they've given them.
So we have here my screen.
Are you able to make that a little larger?
Just say when, and I can keep going.
A bit, a little bit more. That's good. Thank you. I think this one was sent out with the variance request though.
Here.
I mean, if you, Adrian, if you can scroll so we can see the front of the building, which is, yep, keep going. There you go. I had a question about on the left-hand side of that. It shows 5 risers at 3 inches. And it looks like a set of stairs onto the path of the ramp. Is that correct? Am I reading this wrong? It's just to the right of bicycle and trash.
Ollie, could I? Ollie, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead, Tom.
Could I answer the question? I could explain what can you go to that? Can you go to that thing that the picture that I sent this morning? The plan?
Yes. Adrian, can
it'll
I
be easier
share
for you to see.
my screen?
Is this other picture?
It's a JPEG.
It would have
Oh, that one.
some green outlet.
It's as beautiful yellow in the front, and it
Okay.
shows the front piece.
Hold, please.
Thank you.
I will find it.
I do have it on my screen.
Yeah, if you want to share, Holly, that's fine.
And as I say that,
Then we can tag team. That's fine.
how is that?
Oh, nice.
That is the we pulled that's a 3D image out of the Revit model. Is there a plan? And what you see there on the right, just to explain what you're looking at for just a moment, is 5 steps, 2 to the right, you take 1 more and then 2 to the left. So it's actually got 2 landings built into a step that goes up, a rise that goes up about 30 inches, To the left, the ramp goes to the left and then doubles back on itself. And the intention of all of that was that from the very beginning of the project, I wanted everybody, whether you are going to use the stairs or you're going to use the ramp, everybody there's an equality of entrance. You come to the same place on Beacon Street and you go right or you go left, but you end up at the same place and you can see that straight ahead. And that what is straight ahead is an open porch. There would be bicycles back there. Trash and recycling is in that white cube to the left. And then to the left of the ramp, what I think, is it Adrian, I think was asking, a ramp has a intermediate landing where it turns back and begins to take the next rise up. In this case, what we've done is we've added 5 risers, 3-inch, I think they're technically 3 1/4 and
Would they
12-inch.
be right here, Tom, where I'm circling the image?
Yes, precisely. Yep. On the right side of the half of that is where it would be. And it's basically, yeah, it would basically be so that the person picking up the trash and recycling would be able to come up and get what they need out of it. This is how it starts. And they would go down the same ramp, and they do this about whatever o'clock, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock in the morning. And they would then kind of rumble down those five risers with the trash receptacles and put them in the truck and then bring them back up, as opposed to having them walk. Well, it was just how do you get them? Otherwise, you bring them around the ramp and they walk all the way down. It's further. I'm just trying to make that easier. It was also the notion that there could be, in fact, Holly, can you move to that other plan, because it's easier almost.
Is this
because I'm talking about
the
an
picture,
imaginary stair at the moment on
the
left.
picture with on the left of my screen that has the green landscape highlighted?
The plan, it's a plan, a colored plan view.
Can anyone see the screen on the left, the image on the left? It says landscaping.
No.
No.
we-
No.
I don't
No.
see-
Seeing the
Okay.
photo.
Hold on then.
And Holly, I just want to note that Bonnie has a hand up, so she might have a follow-up question to what was just shared.
Absolutely. I think I have to pause share. And then I have to resume share. Nope, that's not working. Bonnie, why don't you ask your question and I will do my best to find the
thank
right
you.
screen. Here we go.
Yeah, so I guess my question is, does that mean the ramp is open at that end, leading directly into stairs? Because that's what it looks like from here.
That is what it does. We could put an operating rail. We do that in emergency exits that would stop somebody from being able to go down there. But that is in fact what it's proposing right now.
Okay, so legality wise, I'm not sure that's legal. But function wise, I'm a wheelchair user. And, if I were living in this building and trying to carry something in or out of the building, and I'm trying to navigate going down a ramp, say with one hand, because I'm holding something, I would not want to be worrying about not being able to stop myself and going off onto stairs. And if you put a rail there, I don't see how that could be functional in terms of, you don't want to put it so that it opens onto the stairs, because then the person dealing with the trash and recycling has to back down the stairs as they're opening that. But if you put it opening onto the ramp, then you're impeding access to the ramp. So I would say this is not a very functional design for wheelchair users or people with other mobility impairments that need ramp access. And while it's nice to provide extra access to people handling your services, I don't think this is a successful way to do it. I'm also unclear from these plans, and I'm sorry that I didn't look at the picture close enough when it was up. Is the ramp covered or is this open?
It's open.
Yeah, so again, if it's raining, if it's icy, if it's snowing, those all provide impediments to, wheelchair tires, and you don't have a lot of control going down a ramp. And the grade of your ramp is fairly steep. I know it's what's allowable by law, but that's still fairly steep. So it's not going to be easy to control coming down and making that corner. And if it's open, that's just really unsafe.
Bonnie, are you able to see my screen still with the image?
It's not the image up anymore. It's now it's a plan that says landscaping.
Oh, okay. That's what I was showing.
Yeah.
Thank you, Bonnie. I appreciate your comments and your feedback. Does anyone else have any additional comments or feedback or questions?
This is Leon. I have some general comments, but also one directly relating to what Bonnie was saying. As far as just having a gate at there, would not also presumably include a stopper at the bottom. So like generally the requirements are that, yeah, there's the railing, but then there's also something at ground level raising to stop, wheels from being able to go off the edge. So just having a gate would not include a stop there. So the only thing stopping someone from rolling off the edge would be a bar that, if they're sitting, might be at, chest height or head height. So that's not actually going to be a safe situation. And I have additional comments generally, but I don't know if other people have things on this first, so I will.
I'm going to ask that we exchange any questions that we may have at this time, in case there's anything that Tom can modify or can respond to. And then I'm going to send out some information to all of us and collect some more feedback so that I can respond to the variance.
Holly, it looks like Deborah has her hand up, and I don't
Thank
think
you.
we've heard from her yet.
Deborah, please give us let us know what your thoughts are, please.
Mine was feedback rather than a question, but in
That's fine.
terms of the reducing from 48 to 40 inches, I know wheelchair users who also have service dogs. And so that 40 inches wouldn't be enough to accommodate both the power chair and the service dog as well.
That's excellent information. I was not aware of that. Thank you. Anything else?
Hey, Holly, I have a question about words.
Sure.
What
ahead,
do
Frank.
what does it mean by 5 risers?
Stairs.
Oh, okay, yeah, sure.
Rise and run, rise and run.
That's right, you explain it later.
I think they're also referred to as risers because the height and the depth are very important in designing accessibility.
Hmm.
Okay, I'm gonna
Bonnie,
move us
I have
on.
2 questions.
Oh, sure, go ahead.
One is the request for the ramp being narrowed was because of landscaping. And I was curious whether this was the original plan and if that's part of the required green space that Somerville has all developers meet. And the second question is, I'm not seeing an elevator on the plan. And I'm curious where that elevator is. I know it's not on the variance, but it is required by law. And I'm just wondering if that was something that was missed.
There is an
You know-
elevator. I'll let Tom answer. Sorry.
Yeah, I'll answer that. As you look at the plan, and as you go up into that porch area, you take a right turn and you go into a lobby, and the elevator is right there. So you've gone up the rise to get to the elevator. With regard to the green space, I was told actually by the woman who reviewed it for the green space that we've actually provided more than they actually require. And even if that were not the case, we could do this otherwise. There's other ways to deal with the ramp and trash and all that. I had a goal in mind which had to do with the equality of entrance, but sometimes it's hard to accomplish all these things at once. I'm trying to just balance things. I'm an architect by training. I'm the developer of the project. I'm also the general contractor. So I control everything, you know, the conversation we're having right now that we have to pay attention to. And so I can address planting. This is not so much, it is not so much, Bonnie, about the amount of planting on the site. What it is about is there's a 10-foot setback from the sidewalk to the building. Then if that becomes all hardscape, which is what it happens at 4 feet plus 4 feet, that's 8 feet plus you've got room for the handrails and everything. There's no room for any more planting. So basically from the building, you've got another probably 10 feet plus hardscape, and then of the sidewalk, 8 feet probably there, and then probably of the whole way across the street. In other words, it's just a hardscape the whole way across there. And I was just trying to, the goal was, in addition to, because we balance lots of things when we design a building, trying to balance the different interests. And so I was trying to bring green around the corner. And so that was the purpose of it. By reducing it to 40 inches, it exceeds the ADA requirement. But I understand in a motorized wheelchair and a dog right next to you or in front, however you do it, that won't fit. That will not fit in 40 inches. The chair alone is, I think.
Excuse me, but you're breaking up.
I apologize. I hope I haven't lost you much. I'm having trouble with my connection here.
Okay.
Yeah, so I don't know. Did you hear anything I said, or was it lost?
I got most of it, yeah. I just wanted to be sure that you knew your signal was going nuts.
Tom, based on the feedback, specifically the needs of a power chair and a service dog, will you be going back and reviewing your plans again and adjusting your variance request?
There's no, I might just if it's going to be opposed, then I would probably just abandon it and have to redesign, have to review the corner and see how I would do it. That's all.
Okay, I just was curious if you had other options or other ways to accomplish 48 as well as the plantings and certainly the concerns.
No, yeah, that I cannot do because you can do the math. You can do 48, 4 feet and 4 feet is 8 feet. I've only got 10 feet. And then I have to have 6.5 inches between the handrails of one ramp and the other ramp at different levels. And I have to have another, I forget what it was, 3 or 4 inches off of the building, 5 inches, I think it was off the building for clearances. And then we have a curb at the bottom that is required by landscaping all the way around that is 6 inches. You know, there's nothing left of the 10 feet. So I was trying to just get planting in there, but there's other ways I can accommodate access to the building without without really affecting that. It was my goal as an architect, but I understand that there's other things that sometimes, you know, so great. You got one goal, there's lots of goals in the world, and we just figure out how we balance these things. So I'm not, you know, I used to hire a lawyer to deal with these things, to make presentations, but I really just want to make as a good a building as I can. So we'll figure out some solution to it. If I can read from the community, from this meeting, it would probably be opposed. And so if it is, then we'll just revise things. That's all.
Okay, I really appreciate your time answering my questions and being willing to appear here and listen to our input. I think that's a really fantastic way for the commission to work with people who are building in the city. One other thing I just want to mention is Bonnie added that if there were not those stairs to the left, there would be planting space there. Again,
yeah.
Additional feedback.
Yeah, I will, no matter what I do, that there will not be stairs at a ramp like that. So I'll get rid of that.
Well,
That's-
thank you
that's
very
fine.
much. You're welcome to stay on this public meeting, but I'm going to move forward now to a few other items, and then I'm going to jump to the 2 other variance requests. I'm going to shut this chat here.
Thank you.
You're welcome. So I just want to go back quickly to a few updates. We've been working, the mayor's office has drafted a call for additional commissioners we have 2 open seats, as well as working towards filling the pipe with people who are interested in becoming a part of the commission. And when a seat with a date slot becomes available, once that is finalized through the communications department, Adrian or myself will let you know. The HB funds, the $50,000 that we allocated for the Somerville High School Scholarship Foundation has just finished the process of documenting, and all of the paperwork has been sent to the foundation for signatures. This included about a 12-page document that detailed the process of how applicants will be reviewed and how payments are made. And let's see, we need to look at the communication goals, which is the commission goals, I should say. I think that we're going to have to move that on just a little bit later, because we really need to respond to Ms. Capers with 3 of our goals for this calendar year. And what I sent out was a list. I think it had 8 or 10. Anyone have any other feedback? Trying to see who is still on the call.
This is Leanne. Before we move too far, we didn't actually reach any conclusions as far as that variance requests, as far as submitting things, response to MAAB, which I still think we should do.
So what I will do is I will draft a response. I will include all of the comments, especially what was said regarding.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
I haven't actually given all of the comments I had, because I thought we were still in the questions section. So I still have things to say on that.
Can you send them to me in email?
I can, but I would like to actually have that discussion with the full commission. I actually drafted up a response beforehand because I had strong feelings about the request. But I want to make sure that the commission feels the same way.
I think that's great. Let me just check in. Brian, do you also have a question? Or would you like us to first review Leanne's notes?
No, this is, mine is just a point of order. That we do, as I understand it, Adrian, correct me if I'm wrong, but this is the way we've done it since I've been on the commission. The commission has to vote on a response. We have to vote to either recommend or not recommend a variance. The commission's job is not simply to provide feedback to the MAAB. So we have to make a decision on the variance, and we have to provide that. We can't just submit comments. I mean, we can, but it doesn't really matter. Each of us individually can submit comments.
Yeah, and to that point, Holly, that's because when it gets to the hearing phase, that it is on record with the related bodies that this commission either is okay with the variance or is not okay with the variance, and whatever feedback goes along with either of those decision points. Because hopefully that helps inform that board when they're making a decision on this variance, that this commission, because they were asked, feels this way, and this is why.
I'm gonna just throw it out there. Is there anyone who feels that that agrees with the variance request that would say, yes, let's pass it? I'm right with you. I personally, I would not approve this variance. I'm not in favor of the plan the way it sits. I think if we could vote so that we have it on record that we do not approve either relief for the handrails or for the distance between the railings on the ramp. Bonnie, did you have something to add quickly?
Yeah, quickly. I think the MAB likes detailed reasons, and specifically, they're asking for a variance, and one of the reasons for approving a variance is that it would be a financial hardship, which this is not. And I forget what the other one is, and I doubt they meet it as well. But I'm pretty certain what Leon's going to say is what I was going to say as well, which is this particular developer has a habit of ignoring accessibility in this construction process, dating back to 2021. Chris Dewan is here and put together a Twitter thread of all of the violations that he has reported, which I'm sure are not all of the violations that have been reported. They started building the building with half of it built before saying, oops, we built it wrong, and asking for approval to change things mid-process, and they've consistently blocked the sidewalk. So I think that goes to the developer not valuing accessibility, and might be something good to include in the opposition.
Yeah, this is Leon. That was part of what I had, and also just what is present in the application itself is, there's that staircase that we've already talked about that is a huge problem. But also in addition to that, they say that they have a single point of entry to create an equality of experience, and then add an extra side entry with stairs. They say there's an elevator, but it's not on the plans. They say that there's not a secondary entrance for people who require a ramped entry, which I believe is a code violation because you need to have multiple routes of egress. And it's also unclear whether there's an accessible route to the outdoor amenity spaces. So there are just multiple red flags. So what I have written up is saying, we don't recommend that the variance be denied. The one about handrails, absolutely no. Aesthetics should not come over accessibility. And then, the space between handrails, I can't imagine a situation where that might be something to approve, but they have not provided close to sufficient evidence that this is that. And on top of all of the other red flags in the application and all of their previous behavior, I think nothing should be approved without significant additional scrutiny, and also the entire project should be reviewed for other violations. I don't know if that's actually something the MAB has the power to do, but I think it is worth putting in a response.
I'm not sure if we have that power, but I will definitely inquire about that. I did ask some questions in general about parking and access to that patio that's in the back, and how people could possibly use those trash receptacles if they were too tall, what their plans were for things about that.
Yeah, I don't think that we have the power to require it, but we definitely have the power to put in a response that we recommend it.
I'm going to sway a little to the left for a moment. One thing that Adrian has shared with me that I have seen in other communities is that within the bylaws, the chair is allowed to respond to variances on behalf of the commission. Adrian, would you like to elaborate more for me?
So the only model of this that I know is from what I know what I believe goes on with the city of Cambridge. I've been told that depending on the type of the request, so it's a case-by-case basis, that it will be communicated to the commission that there's a variance out there, because these have to be sent to the disability commissions, as we know, and that there will be some just initial conversation, and it's sort of on a case-by-case basis. If they feel that the executive director of that commission / ADA coordinator can make a response to the variance on behalf of the commission, or if they need to meet to look over documents and have a bigger discussion. So it is on, from what I understand, a case-by-case basis, and that's the last I knew. So I don't know if anything has changed with how they do it, but from what I understand, it's a case-by-case basis. And then on a bigger picture, in terms of just the variance process within the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, as you know, as I just said, these are required to be sent to the local disability commission that exist, in the community where the variance is being requested. And there should be overlap there. So if I think we have a variance coming up later on the agenda that covers 4 different MBTA stops. Not all of those are in Somerville. So I hope that those respective commissions, with respect to those locations, also got a copy of this request to review, because that is in their communities, if that makes sense. So Holly, I would just, as much as I can advise you, I think you have to sort of see what this body prefers to do in terms of that process, and how, if you want to refine that process.
Okay.
But I would say that more construction and things are ramping up again because the weather will get warmer. So this commission will probably see more of these coming through now that we're entering into the warmer months.
My hand's been up for a long time. I'd like to make propose a motion that that we are opposed to the variance as it stands. And I don't think, from everything I've heard from every person on the commission, that there's any actual support for it. And so it seems to me, rather than spend more time, it's quite evident from looking at the slides, from listening to the discussion, that we're not in support of it. And what happens after that is what happens after that. But it's my proposal, if anyone wants to second it.
I second it.
I second it.
All in favor? Say
Aye.
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 Anyone opposed? I hear silence. So we shall, decision passes. We will not be approving or supporting this variance request.
And then now what happens? Do we submit something now we submit something formal? Is there a specific form, or is it to write something up?
So that's where we're kind of stuck a bit. So typically, as Leanne said, we would draft a full response with the commission, and then I would send it along in this case. But what
To the AAB?
Pardon?
To the access board, you mean?
To the MAAB.
So,
And of course,
Holly, I think to wrap this up, may I make another motion?
please.
I move that that we deny these 2 variances for 205 Beacon, and authorize the chair to collect the comments that we have provided this evening in a letter to send to the MAAB, communicating our response.
I
Thank you
second.
for your
Can I
help.
second that with one
I
slight revision?
second,
I don't think we have the power to deny. I think we just have the power to recommend
You're
to
correct.
the access
Yeah,
board
yeah,
that they
yeah,
deny.
we get, thank you, Leanne, you're absolutely right. We can only, I
Do
move
not
that
recommend.
we communicate that we do not recommend approval of this variance.
How many
Second.
people
Or
want to
we can
second that?
recommend the denial, but it doesn't really matter. All we can do is make a recommendation.
How many people want to be the second?
I second.
I'll second.
Okay. All those in favor? Anyone opposed? Motion passes. Okay,
And Holly, I will email you with the thing that I drafted up that you can
please, I appreciate that, Leanne, and anyone,
use as a draft, however you like.
anyone else who has any other comments or feedback that hasn't had an opportunity to share them. Deborah, I really appreciate what you added about the dimensions for a motorized chair and a service animal. That wasn't something that I thought of before, and that's extremely important. So thank you for that, for sharing that with us. And I'm a true believer in we shouldn't strive for the minimum. So the minimum is 48, but it is possible to provide more, and it would be more beneficial. I prefer that, but that's just my personal interest there. So we talked about, we have 3 fantastic members. Just congratulations to everyone. We are in the process of drafting a call for additional members. And we've made some progress with the Scholarship Foundation. And I hope to hear back very soon. Adrian and I both do, that we have everything signed. And we have the membership terms, the revisions, the goals. Oh, I have two updates. I'm skipping around clearly. Mr. Frank Lee has sent a statement of interest, and he would like to be considered for the role of Associate Commissioner. If anyone has any questions or concerns they'd like to address with Frank, I see hands clapping. If
No
not,
concerns, just excitement.
if anyone doesn't, I'd like to.
No, I think Frank for president. I think he's a great help.
I'm very excited.
No offense to everyone else. I just am glad.
Oh, that's great.
Okay.
So I'm gonna call a motion to vote to appoint Mr. Frank Lee as an associate commissioner.
I will second this.
I will second
Second.
that. We have several seconds. All those in favor? Anyone
Aye.
opposed? Woohoo, okay. You are official, Mr. Frank Lee.
Thank you.
Welcome to your new role.
Not so new, but newish.
Now, unfortunately, on the other side of this table is Jamie Perconti submitted their resignation as an associate commissioner. And they have been a fantastic resource and champion for persons with disabilities and throughout the city. And I will be replying to their statement and letting them know that. And if anyone else would like to reach out to Jamie, I will ask. I do believe we all have each other's emails, so you would be able to reach them that way. But I just wanted to share that news today. I heard that about 4 o'clock. Adrian, did you also receive that notice?
I did not.
I will make sure that you have that.
So being that I'm in huge favor of voting on things, I move that the commission formally acknowledge Jamie Perconti's amazing contribution to the committee, providing an amazing resource of concepts and ideas and perspective, and especially with his dedication to improving the lives of people with disabilities throughout the city.
And I would add to that we request city council acknowledge that as well. I don't know if
Is Jamie okay?
Jamie is fine. Jamie.
Okay, all right.
is
Well, I
really,
think I just want to make sure. I don't
no,
know.
no, I'm sorry. I should have prefaced.
I mean, then we're like making
that.
this things like we're honoring them. I'm
No,
like,
no,
oh,
no, no.
okay,
Jamie
Jamie's
is
fine.
healthy
Okay,
and
that's fine. Jamie's okay.
needs to be able to spend more time focused with the commission, and for that reasons they are stepping down.
Yeah. No, my intent for the motion was just so that Holly, when you communicate that to Jamie, it is a thank you.
Memorialized.
No, so that they understand that the entire commission really appreciated their service. And I often think a vote really says that clearly and unambiguously.
Okay, so we have a motion. Who hasn't seconded anything yet today? Kate?
I don't think I have. I don't know.
Okay, Kate is our second. All those in favor? Say aye. Anyone opposed? Okay, motion passes. Thank you, Brian, for your insight and input. They will be greatly missed. Adrian, I don't want to skip over you.
I only have one thing.
Please take the floor.
Well, I shouldn't say only. I have a thing. All of you should have, at the very least, commissioners and associate commissioners, gotten email communication from me via the mayor's office about the new code of conduct overview trainings. So this is two parts. So it was one email with a lot of text, and Braille copies should have made it to Harriet and Pauline by this point, or should be soon. So if that hasn't happened, please let me know. But the code of conduct is something the mayor's office is putting in place for all commissions. And there will be overview sessions. First one is coming this Thursday from 12 to 1 p.m. on Zoom. And then alternatively, if you cannot attend that one, next Thursday on April 6th from 6 to 7 p.m. will be the same one, just in the evening. If you can't make either of those, that's perfectly fine. There will be a recording posted and sent out. The document was in that email, but then the mayor's office will be going over this document during that time period and describing it. I did send calendar invites with the Zoom information, but we'll put them in emails tomorrow because it's a little easier sometimes to access than calendar invites. And if you have any questions about how to access those meetings or the different document formats, please let me know.
Thank you.
Thanks, Adrian. I'm going to bounce around some more, and I just want to share the variance decision on 690-694 Broadway. Adrian, are you able to, actually, I probably can display that quite quickly. We had given feedback as a commission, and they were able to adjust the slope going into the building. And we had asked for an APS, an automated door opener, a push button. I'm using all the wrong words and embarrassing myself, but a button to push to make sure that someone, that the door can open for them, as well as this slope that's a little higher than people would like. So it was approved with the changes in slope and also with the addition of the door opener. Brian, what are the right words?
I think you got them mostly right.
It's not door opener, it's
Automatic door opener.
Oh.
I'm sure there's another term for it, but that's what I recall always calling it.
door button.
Yeah.
Thank you. Did anyone not have a chance to look at that decision, or does anyone have any comments or questions about that? It seemed pretty straightforward to me. Just wanted to make sure everyone saw that. It was good to see that they were able to change the slope and also add the door opener. Okay. We have the minutes of 4 months to look at and review / approve. I had originally planned for 5, but I miscalculated last month. So we have October, November, December, and January. We also have about a half hour to go through them.
I'm sorry, through the chair, I'm sorry to interrupt you. Were there 2 other variance requests or not?
So there is,
I believe there's also the MBTA variance request.
Yeah, and the,
MBTA.
Yeah.
Oh, are you referring to the gentleman with the bathrooms?
yeah, so it's, I believe, 4 MBTA stops in relation to bathrooms. And from what I understand in his communication, unless something's changed, he was actually seeking this commission's feedback before submitting the variance, which I've been told can happen and is sometimes a good situation because it gives them the opportunity to have that feedback prior to submitting the application in case they want to change anything.
And as Adrian said, 2 of those 4 train stations are in Somerville, specifically Davis Square. Actually,
One.
we only have Davis Square.
Right.
Is there anyone who did not receive the copy of that variance request? And would it, I can bring the request up now. From memory, there were matters of inches that they could not meet in the design, but without misspeaking, I think it'd be best if myself or Adrian were able to pull that up. Who can do it first, Adrian?
This is Leon. I believe the one in Somerville was a matter of a 1/2 inch. And then the others were slightly more. I don't know if we respond to all of them or just the one in Somerville.
Thanks, Adrian, for bringing up that document. Yes, I
How do
agree.
I win, Holly?
Let's see.
I don't need a prize. I'm just kidding.
No, you deserve many prizes and props for a lot of things that you're doing that that you don't get credit for, but we appreciate it more than you know. I believe it's just Davis, Leanne.
Yeah, so it's up here. It's request number 1. Is it helpful for me to read this? Probably.
I would appreciate that.
Request 1, sections for which you are seeking relief, 3.1.1 A. Are you seeking temporary relief? The options are yes or no. They are saying no. Next question is not applicable because they said no. And then the next question says, please describe in detail why compliance with the board's regulations are impracticable as defined in 521 CMR 5 for the subject of this request, and attach whatever documents are relevant to support your argument that compliance is impractical. Attach additional pages if necessary, and please identify which request each attachment is in support of. Davis Station, red line. Men's restroom has a water closet that is offset 18.5 inches from the wall, not meeting the 18 inches requirements by 0.5 inches or half an inch. Women's restroom has a water closet that is offset from 17.5 inches from the wall, not meeting the 18-inch requirement by half an inch. To provide the 18-inch offset that is required, either the walls in both restrooms or the water closet carriers slash pipe slash water closet would have to be reset by half an inch. This significantly increases the efforts of work to be performed in the restrooms while providing no significant accessibility improvement to patrons. See Exhibit A, restroom improvement plans, and Exhibit B, station layout plans.
The distance from the toilet to the wall on the side.
But there's a bar there too, right?
Yeah, I believe so. So it needs to be 18 inches. And in one case it's short and one case is too far away by half an inch.
That's right, Frank. Thank you.
Yep.
To me, I was in favor of allowing them the half inch too much, half inch too big. But that's my thought. I'd
Yeah,
love to hear
this-
from others.
Yeah, this is Leon. My general opinion is if it's a exact number and not a range, then half an inch is well within the like measuring is hard distance. Yeah,
Is-
the ones that are like off by 2.5 inches, it's maybe, but for half an inch, like that seems fine if there's not a range, just one number to hit.
Does anyone else have a different opinion, or they would not approve, would not endorse this? Thank you, Brian. I was hoping you would have some feedback as well. Let me just see if there are any other members who would not approve of this or support this.
Would this change the accessibility of this facility or what?
Brian, why don't you answer that?
Sure. So I think a couple of things to realize, if I'm understanding this application and the Davis Square station correctly, these are existing restrooms that were built in the late 70s, early 80s, before the accessibility rules that the ADA law was put into place in the 90s. I think what they're trying to do is bring their existing restaurants as close as they possibly can to meet current ADA rules, but they're unable to meet it perfectly because they are having to work with existing plumbing, existing walls, etc., that meet really close to current requirements, but are off by half an inch. So my interpretation, and I'm welcome to be challenged because I'm not an expert in experiencing this need, but that being off by half an inch is really close and hopefully an insignificant difference that we could accept as being effectively meeting the standards.
Thank you. I'm going to ask if anyone else would not be in favor of this request, to give any comments or feedback.
May I speak, Chair? This is
Please.
Harry.
Absolutely, Harriet.
I'm not in favor of it. And I also, though, I would really feel completely 100% if you, Bonnie, would chime in on, as a wheelchair user, if that half an inch would make a critical difference for you.
Thank you, Harriet.
Welcome.
Bonnie, are you not able to see all the participants?
This is Bonnie. I think that it should be approved. The only thing that I question is and I don't know I didn't have a chance to look up what the requirements are, but the pictures, not this diagram, but the actual pictures, where they place the toilet paper dispensers, they're a little bit far forward and so difficult to reach from the toilet. And some of them look to be too close to the grab bars because they're required to have a certain amount of, distance so you're not getting your hand caught in between them. And also able to use the grab bar if you need that side access. And so it looks like they might be moving those, but I wasn't clear on exactly where. Like the
I
one
gotta
going-
say, as a side note, those pictures are shameful. I'm really sorry.
Yes.
The fact that someone didn't recognize that the condition of that bathroom is deplorable and then actually took a picture of it.
One hopes that they're gonna do a little spiffing up in their upgrades.
And
Rock
to
for
your
rock.
point, the one image, and I'm just gonna describe these two images. On the right, it is what appears to be very dirty toilet
Yep.
stall, and it has behind it is the grab bar, not on either side. And the toilet paper appears to be hanging from some type of a hook.
Oh, God.
Correct me,
It's
anyone.
a piece of wire. The last I knew,
Oh,
there was a piece of
okay.
wire that was just hanging.
Okay, and so moving on to the other image is, those are the two different, oops, they keep moving. That's not the same. No, those are two different stalls. So the visual of the stall on the left is equally deplorable. I notice it appears to be lower to the ground, but that might be the perspective in which it is. It has a grab bar behind, and it also has a grab bar to the right on the wall closest to the toilet, but it does have a dispenser that is blocked by that railing.
Mrs. Bonnie, it's more that the railing is blocked by the dispenser.
Okay. The
So
railing is
if I
blocking.
were to need that railing to transfer, right now you can really only access the back 4 inches of it because it's taking up all of that space.
And
but it looks like they do have plans to move them, but that's the only thing that I would question is whether where they're moving them are appropriate. And that stall on the right, they do in the plans add a grab bar on the side and a proper toilet paper dispenser as well. But in general, the 1/2 inch shouldn't make a huge difference. There is one toilet, and I don't remember if it's Davis or one of the other stations that they call out as being a different height. And I don't know.
That was
how
one of
different
the
it is from
others.
does anyone know if we are allowed to comment on things outside of Somerville?
I mean, you can always submit the commentary. It'll be in there. Anybody in the public can submit commentary.
Yeah.
And it coming from a commission, I think adds weight to it.
Yeah, I think I would agree with
the-
Bonnie that we can submit comments. I don't know whether we should recommend approval or denial, but I absolutely think we can submit comments. However, I want to bear in mind that we don't want to use up our time if we need to cover other things. I think the most important thing is that we cover the Davis Square ones. And then if we have time, we absolutely should cover the others.
And
Yeah,
let me remind everyone, which I forgot for a moment, this has not been submitted yet. They're asking us for feedback of what we would or would not approve, which sort of gives us a little more runway as it's not been processed or will not go to hearing yet.
So the MBTA has not actually submitted this variance request?
Correct. The MBTA has not submitted this to the Architectural Access Board for relief. They're simply asking for feedback on their plans. So
Okay.
I would like to call a motion to recommend that we draft a statement that we are in support of the request at Davis for the 2.5 inch too much, 1/2 inch too little request. However, we would like to confirm the other features within the new build are compliant. Does anyone have any changes to what I just said? Brian?
That was me seconding.
Oh, cool. Okay.
If they were gonna change it, if they weren't gonna be compliant with, they have to, because it's not structural, then they wouldn't have to talk about. So the toilet paper wouldn't, it's not a structural issue, so they wouldn't have to ask us.
I think they would. I don't know.
I mean, I feel like they're gonna do it. If they care about doing this, do it right, they're probably gonna do it, but okay.
Bonnie?
It's not exactly structural, but it ties into the structural element of the grab bars.
Absolutely.
And I think if they're coming to you for feedback now,
Might as well
mentioning
give it.
and saying, hey, I noticed this and I
Yeah.
just want to make sure you're aware of it, means they're a lot less likely to make the mistake
Yeah,
and
yeah,
then have
that's
to
great.
like redo it. Because once it's in there, getting it changed is a lot harder.
Yeah.
Thank you.
The one other similar,
1 second,
Mm,
Leanne.
oh.
I'm sorry, I'm going to interrupt you and come right back to you. So we're just, I'm just putting a motion forward for the response to the Davis station, and we certainly can talk about the others, if that's okay.
I second it, or I think Brian seconded.
Brian
it.
already seconded it. You missed your opportunity,
It's
but
okay.
thank you.
Can we
All,
vote?
all those in favor, please say aye. If anyone is
Aye.
opposed, nope. Okay, motion passes. Go ahead, Leanne. You wanted to talk about the other two.
just if this is a not directly responding to the MAB, but responding to the MBTA for feedback ahead of time. One other thing that I couldn't tell if it would be an issue or not was in the Haymarket. The location of the changing stations is such that it looks like if it were down, it could be it obstructs the path. And so just making sure that that is something that they've considered and that it either there's more space than it looks like, or just making sure that that is something that would be
It might block someone with a view.
yeah, like that they're just making sure there isn't an issue that like somebody could leave it down and then the next person can't get in.
Very good point.
So if we are just giving feedback to them, then that would be a thing to flag for them to check on.
I have sipping broth later.
It looks like Adrian is displaying that piece here.
So that wasn't mentioned in the text. That was just something I noticed from the image of the plan. Which
Never tell
was
us I need
down
to.
on page 13.
Does that say coat hook?
It does.
Okay.
But yeah, like if that could be a problem, then honestly, like just switching the coat hook and the changing station might be enough to make space there. So just flagging that for them to make sure that they have considered it.
You know, it's a very good point because you can't tell the distances between any of the objects on these pictures. And you can't really tell how close either changing station is. Okay. Does anyone else have any feedback or comments on these MBTA lavatory improvements other than please provide more funding to maintain the cleanliness of these? restrooms that are vitally important.
Yeah.
Okay. And Leon, just as being a commissioner, you are always welcome to write feedback or concerns on your own. I'm not saying that we won't include it. I'm just reminding you and everyone else that, you know.
Oh, I know that I
Comments.
theoretically can. I just am much more likely to say a thing when I'm in a meeting to someone who's going to be submitting it anyway than to remember to find the address and send it on my own. So
I appreciate that.
if
Sometimes,
you're doing it anyway, I will.
sometimes our roles as commissioners, at least I sometimes forget that we're also residents, and that residents and our opinions and concerns are very important to the city, and as a commission. Okay, 10 minutes. Adrian, did you have anything else? Okay, I am going to bring up the goals document because it has been several months since we were asked to do this. Or actually, Adrian, are you going to bring that up? Let me just see.
I don't have it readily in front of me, so if you do, Holly, I'll let you win this one.
You get to decide on the prize. Okay. Where'd she go? Okay. So here we go. Can everyone see my screen? So these are the goals that are part of, I believe these came from MOD. And they are sort of categories of things that commissions do. So the first one is about programs and services. The second one is about accessibility. The third one is encouraging mobility. Then we have the need for affordable housing, education, and referrals, lobbying, which is very important, advocacy. Wow, I did not realize there were this many. Oh, 10. Education and a topic of others. So I was sharing this document as sort of a jumping off point because I felt it had it categorized many of the things that we work on, and gave some content below these categories. And our goal was to choose 3 that we would like to focus on as a commission. This in no way is a statement that these are the only things that we will be doing, but I do believe that having a goal, a reachable goal of looking towards 3 of these 10 options can drive more success. Is there anyone who has not had the opportunity to look at these or has any comments or feedback about them?
May I just, Chair, may I address? May I
Oh,
speak?
please, yes.
I actually had very cursorily looked at them, but I was so fixed on the bylaws that I haven't, and I would be hard pressed to make those 3 priorities tonight. But but obviously, if everybody else has addressed it and we speak about it some, I might be able to do it. But they all seem sort of dramatically significant. I don't know what to say.
Would it be possible for our members to reply or provide me some feedback on the top 3 of these 10? I can put this in an email in a more readable and embossable format.
Sure, that's great. Thank you.
And certainly if anyone feels that there isn't a goal listed here that they would like us to work on, to please provide that to me. Does anyone have any other comments or feedback on reviewing this in that manner?
Yeah, this is Brian, just to clarify. This is a request from the administration, ? And is the request to prioritize which 3 we think are the most important of these 10?
The request was to provide 3 goals that we'll be working towards. Adrian, would you brought this to the attention of the commission?
Yeah, so per the Department of Racial and Social Justice's Director Denise Molina Capers, she via me had requested that this commission, along with the other 2 commissions that are part of our department, come up with 3 goals for the year. So these, this is a great list from MOD, but these could also be things that you all brainstorm about specific to the city of Somerville. Again, MOD gives some great guidelines, but specific to the city of Somerville, the mission of this particular commission, and things that you feel would be achievable, you know, within the next year. And if it goes beyond that, that's okay too. So that is where this is rooted in. So again, I think this list from MOD is great, but to the points of some of the other commissioners, for sake of time, it might merit sort of a bigger discussion on specific things, maybe about Somerville or this commission and other things other people may have in mind.
What other thoughts do you have, Brian? You have your thinking face.
No, I must have missed the meeting where this was discussed, so this is new to me.
No worries. It's been on the agenda. However, as now we've run out of time to noodle it some more.
But I think it was a good meeting. I just want to say that. I
Well,
think
the
it was
meeting
very-
is only as good as the people who attend.
I don't want you to sell yourself. I think it was a
Oh.
good meeting. And so
No, I
I thought it was a very,
meeting.
okay, just wanted to make
It's
sure.
not my
that-
meeting. This is our meeting, but thank you, Kate.
Well, everybody,
Yeah.
you did a
You're
great
here,
job.
You're here, you're here.
I don't know that we actually have time to go over the meeting minutes at this point, but I wanted to point out a error that I caught before I forget about it before
We
next
try to do
month.
one. Let's try to do one.
So
Please.
on January's, my first name and Crystal's last name are misspelled consistently throughout. So those should get corrected.
That was me.
Yeah, so my first name, it's an N rather than an M, and then it's Crystal Huff with 2 Fs rather than 2 Ts.
I have to unshare to start sharing.
Other than
Sorry.
that, they all looked good to the extent that I can remember what happened more than 3 days ago.
It is very hard to go backwards. I agree. Why will it not let me share? Can I show that? Woo! Can you see it? Huff. And yes, you are, Leanne. Did I do that correctly, Leanne?
Yes, that is correct. And
So
I think it was all of them, so it might be easier to just do a find and replace.
Okay, that I can do. So what we're showing is the agenda minutes, the minutes from January 10th. And I fixed the naming here. Were there any other comments that you had, Leanne, as far as what was
Not
included?
that I noticed in a quick glance through.
I can do it. Do you know how to remove the watermark? You want me to take the watermark off it? And I'll send it to you.
Sure.
Okay, I'll do it right now. Sorry, Leanne. I know your name. I must have auto corrected at one point. I didn't.
Yeah, I get it all the time, so. Mostly just if it's being posted.
Well,
to
my
keep-
name, I see my name.
not
I
confusing.
understand. My name is Catherine. My name is often spelled wrong. So I understand. Wanting to get it right.
Do we want to approve these while we have them up, or do that next month because
I
it's
haven't read any
9
of them.
now?
Excuse me, this is
Okay.
Harriet, Madam Chair. I have not read any of them recently and thoroughly, so I'd love to read them through. But I don't object if you guys want to pass this one.
No, I would like that we send these 4 out for embossing, if that's okay, so that everyone can review them. Unless we've already sent them out, Adrian. No, okay. So let's send the 4 out for embossing. And then we can review them later. I feel like we have, God, 10 or 12 months of minutes that need to be approved. And it may need to be its own meeting of the minutes. And I respect everyone's needs and goals and commitments, and may also ask that we schedule a minutes meeting in the future. I know. Maybe we can find a suitable approach to that, Kate. You have a different suggestion. I'm all ears and minutes. But without minutes.
Sorry, this sounds like a really awful meeting. I'm
Sorry.
just looking at minutes. I'm sorry. I understand. I didn't say it wasn't important. My face was, I don't want.
No.
My face is.
I'm not looking forward to it either, but we have to get through the backlog, and then we really have to try our best to have minutes for the prior months.
I have a counter offer. This is Harriet, Madam Chair.
Sure.
My counter offer is that if we commit as commissioners to read through at least 3 sets of these minutes, which should not take us that long at home. And then each meeting we have subsequently, we approve 3 minutes, 3 months of minutes. How about that? Would that be, we'll be improving anyway, you know?
We shall capture your suggestion in the minutes for the March 28th meeting, which hopefully will be approved before the end of this calendar year. I like your suggestion very much.
Yeah, and through the chair, to Harriet's point, and I think I put this in an email to you, Holly, best practice is that you approve meeting minutes at the top from the previous month at the top of the meeting, and that way it's a priority and it gets done, and time is not an issue, and then you move on, and that's sort of standard practice. So once you all get a little caught up, then that's be helpful. But I think top of the agenda for minutes is always good practice.
I think part of the challenge is, as I see Brian writing fast, and I've done it, is it's hard after you do the minutes. It takes an hour, it takes me an hour or two to go through them to kind of make sense. Like it's not right after the meeting is over, the minutes aren't done. That's my issue. And so, and it's always on Brian or sometimes me, but mostly on Brian. And so if there's a way we can make it so it's not the same, that it's more of a rotating thing, because what ends up happening, it takes up a lot of time after.
Brian, you were gonna add?
No, I was just pointing out that Adrian was saying something different than what Katie was responding to, but I think what Katie said was very important. So,
well, that's why they're often not ready for the next meeting is the point.
Yeah, but I do agree that any minutes that are to be approved. And this is consistent with, I think, every other committee, commission, council that I've worked with. Minutes are the second thing after a call to order.
Okay,
Yeah,
so there is
I'll-
only one item on April's agenda, which I have drafted last week. Can you imagine? Instead of doing it 2 hours before the absolute minimum. And I will reserve all of the remaining time for minutes and possibly bylaws. But yes, I will make sure there is a big chunk of time there.
But I agree, at minimum, we should try to approve 3 months worth.
Okay.
In April.
I challenge you to approve 4.
So which months, when are we gonna decide which months those are? Because I need to like,
Come on.
I'm gonna
it's
go
as long
with-
as someone, I don't care who decides. I don't mean to upset anyone. I need to know so I can read the right ones. That's
okay,
all.
I will make sure to send those out.
That's fine.
Probably with a timetable of when we'll be looking at which.
That's fine.
This is Harriet,
Oh.
to Chair, just one last comment.
Sure.
Frank and I made efforts to braille the bylaws specifically for the purpose so that all of us as commissioners have a couple of weeks or a month or whatever it is before we review them to really go through them individually before we're at the meeting. And even though I know that we can get them done through Perkins, I just figured, I know I need time to process. So Frank really pushed through it all and did all the work to format it and emboss it so that Pauline and I both have readable copies, that can be preparing us for the next meeting. So I acknowledge you, Frank, and it's not your job. It's just something that we did because it seemed like a very important next step, regardless of whether we got to them tonight. So I just wanted to acknowledge that and acknowledge you. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
It was much appreciated.
Colleen, I'm sorry. I did send one version that Holly sent me, at least to you via Perkins. Did you not receive it, or was it not?
I did,
adequate?
but this one,
Is better?
yeah.
Okay. It's just
There's
feedback.
only, there are only a couple of little things that I can talk to Harriet about
Okay.
later on.
Okay.
I don't want to foul up the meeting. Besides, we're late.
That's okay. It's very important to hear from you.
No, there were a couple of misspellings that I wanted to let them know about.
Well, we can deal with that outside the meeting, no problem.
Right, that's what I'm getting at. But other than that, no, it was very well done. I took it to the doctor with me today and read it.
Let me just go over this briefly again, just to comment to see what we have gone through. We acknowledged our new members. We had a great presentation from Mobility. We got updates from myself and from Adrian. We have a plan for future approvals of meeting minutes, and I will be sending out the commission goal document to everyone with some instructions or requests for how to provide feedback to me, so we can sort of target and vote on what we as a commission feel would be those 3 goals. We're very happy Frank has joined us, and we are sad to see Jamie leave. And we all agree that the bathrooms at Davis Square are deplorable, and that a half inch does not seem to be a hardship, plus or minus, as long as the other features of the bathroom are accessible, specifically toilet paper and
The grab bars.
grab bars. Thank you. Oh my God, it's like charades. Okay, everybody, thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
I'm gonna motion to adjourn.
I seconded.
Oh. All those in favor of adjournment?
Aye.
Anyone opposed that would like to stay longer? Aha, the motion passes. I thank you all very, very much.
Thank you, Holly. Thank you.
Everyone.
Good night.
Good night.